Welcome back for this movie review, continuing our horror film here in spooktacular Halloween season. We have Last Night in Soho. This one I was hotly anticipating because, again, another great trailer that I saw. I was like, whoa, this looks very interesting. It is a story that melds the London in the 1960s and current, times with this one girl who seems to have visions of the past, but yet be able to interact with the past, and yet the past almost starts to become real in the current thing. And they did kind of the arms coming through the room walls, and I was like, this is super fascinating. Where is this going? I must see this. It's also directed by Edgar Wright, who we like a lot of his films: Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End, pretty much all of those. Baby Driver he also did. So he's very stylistic and a good director. So here is his psychological horror film. And this one starring Thomasin McKenzie, Anna Taylor-Joy, of course, that very unique-looking girl. She's the one in the past. And you got Matt Smith, that I can't ever separate from Doctor Who, and Terrence Stamp. So, I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank our Patreon supporters who let us do even more of these movie reviews and extra videos. So if you like that, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Click the links down below or the YouTube join button if it's easier for you. So yeah, let's get into the review. I'll let you guys go first. What did you think of Last Night in Soho?
When I first saw the trailer, I was like, okay, this is looks interesting, but I was not really on board.
Okay.
After watching it, I went in with low expectations because, like I said, I didn't really want to watch this. But it's like, all right, we're going to watch it. It turned out to be an interesting thriller for me. I really love the visuals, and I love the 60s sound. So this one
I knew you were going to like
better.
that sort of Beatles, pre-Beatles British song.
Yeah.
And their songs are blaring non-stop. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Joe's going to like this.
I liked it, yeah. It was better than I expected, so.
Huh. Why did you expect it to be bad?
I don't know. Just from the trailer, it just seemed kind of like bland and just like I wasn't really intrigued with this.
Okay. And then with Antlers, it was the reverse. You
It
were
was.
intrigued,
It
but
was.
you were
It's
fun.
like, oh,
Okay.
cool, Wendigo. All right.
Alex?
Something.
I really liked the setup and the story, and this one was this is a good example, at least the first half of the movie, of like a really good slow burn. It's going and it's going, but there's purpose to everything that happens, and the character experience kind of like a slow descent into madness, and then once she gets to the height of that madness, we lollygag and we linger and we steep and we stew and we wallow in it, and we don't fucking leave. And every minute beyond the first 10 minutes of this point where we refuse to move on into the story, I was getting less and less interested. So by the time we actually get going into the final act of the movie, I didn't care very much. And the contradictory ending that they surprise you with,
that's where it
and then
was.
it's just like, and then I get to there, it's just like, I just am not engaged. You had me so hard in the beginning. I was loving the visuals. The music was incredible. The acting was good. I liked everything that was happening. And then he got to a point and refused to fucking move on till I didn't care.
Yep. Very much like Antlers, where the film starts very, very well. It's very good up until its third act, where it just goes off the rails.
Yeah.
It does this big twist and reveal that I think is irresponsible. It chooses the lowest common denominator. It feels cheap. It's confused a little bit in my opinion, and it kind of ruins what I thought was going to be a very insightful message in the film, and then it just kind of goes for horror tropes and a twist ending. And I didn't think that last bit was necessary. And we can talk about what that last bit in spoilers is. So what you have here is a very beautifully shot film. You have extremely well acted. This one acted probably even better than Antlers, and well directed. Very stylish, especially when you're mixing the worlds of the 1960s. This particular character that we follow around, she's a student. She's a fashion student. Wants to design her own clothing. Just is in love with the 60s. Her mother has had histories of mental illness, and she sees visions of her mother. And so she's like Sixth Sense, right? She's sensitive to, the
Ghosts.
psychological things and ghosts and things. And so she gets to school, and she's kind of an outsider because she's from the
countryside.
country girl, and of course all the posh London British young girls make fun of her, and she's like, fuck this. She goes to an apartment. That's where this spooky stuff starts to happen because she's so attuned to, this kind of stuff. And so she basically picks up on the past of this one particular lady. And without spoiling anything, you think it's one thing, and then it becomes a horror story. It's something else, and she's trapped and she can't get out, and she basically experiences what this past lady is experiencing, and that's where your horror comes. Unfortunately, in that third act, you get these unscary apparitions. I guess they're God. I can't say it. I can't say it. I want to say what it is, but I can't. And it's not scary in that sense. And then they do, like I said before, a twist reveal. It's you thought it was the one thing, and it's actually another. And it's like, but you the whole time you were setting up something, and then you kind of go against it.
Yeah, the problem I have with that is you made me suffer through the third act, and I thought I was suffering for a reason, and it turns out you contradicted everything that happened in the third act with the fourth act, so now I'm double upset with you that it didn't end in a way that was satisfying, and I had to sit through all of that it wasn't garbage, it just they stretched it out for 20, 30 minutes for no fucking reason.
It contradicts what it sets up, in my opinion. A story of oppression and abuse, it contradicts that. And it actually almost starts victim blaming, and I think it's irresponsible. It doesn't make any sense to me. It goes for that cheap horror thrill, and I don't think it needed to do that. So, whereas Antlers had a good setup. This has a good setup. But at least Antlers had the conviction to follow through on its third act and stick with its fucking message. This film,
whatever craziness it
does an about-face, doesn't stick with its message in order to go for that crazy final act. Where Antlers does the crazy final act, and it's on message. It's just stupid, right? And unfortunately, this one is on... it's not on message, and it's stupid. So it's, in my opinion, a little less so. But shot, beautifully with great special effects. But it's like, oh, man, are we really doing this? And it's difficult to talk about. So it sets up a lot of themes that I think it lets down in that third act. Yeah. And, you want to... Can we do any more non-spoilers? Yeah. I let's say I'm not really into the pre-Beatles music and the 60s stuff.
I am.
And I know you are. And so that kind of had me a little less than maybe it had you. But I really liked the way, the production was amazing. The set designs were spot on, fantastic. When you're in the 60s world, you believe it. You're there. The style, the way they dance, it's like, it's funny and it's good, and it's really well done, which makes it so disappointing that I don't ever really want to see this again, because I think it's shot stylistically, and it was interesting the whole way through.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel too. It's like I saw it was an interesting watch, but
even when I'm not into the 60s
again.
stuff, I was still interested in it. There was enough there, but I think the message. It gets muddled in the third act with the extra twist that they like to put on top, and I just think that part was unnecessary. And yeah, so let's go with final verdicts. I wish I could articulate why.
Yeah, but then you're gonna give out like the
it's
spoilers.
just frustrating in the final act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
And it
for
sucks
me,
because
too.
both of these films I thought were going to rise above. I've been waiting for really good horror films. We're here now in horror season, and unfortunately, both Antlers and Last Night at Soho.
Halloween.
I forgot about that.
No,
too.
Halloween. I disagree with you guys. Halloween fucking gets the payoff, dude. Like I went for Halloween for a bunch of kills and stupid people acting stupid and getting killed as a result, and that's exactly what I got. I came to both of these films looking for something a little bit more, and they both let me down. Antlers and Last Night in Soho. Let's go with final verdicts.
For me, I'm torn between like maybe like a 5 or a 6. A 6 for me because it was great acting. I love the actors;
yes.
they did all a great job. I love the way it was shot.
Yeah.
I like some of these camera angles, like you see the reflection of each girl, and then like they're trying to like dancing.
Ooh, you're
and
right.
running.
That dance
And
sequence was
yeah,
amazing,
that was
Joe.
cool. I like the transitions they did with that, and the soundtrack. I love that too. But I don't know if it's the cynical side of me that I hated the ending and how it ended.
Yes.
I was like, this,
It's not the
no,
cynical
this is
side.
not-
I hated
This is
it.
not how it should have ended. Like, I
Exactly.
was mad.
Me too.
I was mad. I was like, this
It's
does not deserve to
you
happen.
ruined it. You fucking ruined it.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like torn between a 5 or a 6. I
Right.
would say it's kind of above average because of those aspects. But story-wise, it did kind of like lag. And then
What was
having a
Edgar Wright doing there in that final? act?
Yeah,
5 or 6?
I would probably say a 6 with everything, but
Right,
like,
above
I
average.
wouldn't really watch it again.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm between probably a 6 or a 7. I really, really liked the first part of this movie, and I was so excited going in. I didn't have super high expectations, but watching this all the way through the first half of this movie, I was hooked. I was ready for this thing to kind of get going, and then it just kind of, didn't do anything in the third act, and then we just kind of sat there for too long a period of time, and then the end... You just can't think. This is the kind of movie that gets worse. I don't think you can watch this twice. If you watch this twice, nothing will make sense. You'll just go back and go like, none of this makes sense based on what
Yeah.
you did at the very
Yeah.
end.
I'd
And
like
so
to point out there are 2 major plot holes when they do the third act with these horror tropes. It's like, excuse me, what are you doing?
Exactly.
We're going to talk about
that's
them in the
that's the
spoilers.
major issue that I've
Yeah.
got. So even with
and none of the rest of the film had shit like that.
yeah. I do think that this is it is amazingly made movie. Most of the issues that I've got with it are in the storytelling aspects.
Yep.
And I could not take 4 points away just for the story. I think that, it started and it ended. So I think I'm going to go with a 7. I think this is a pretty good movie. It just, man, it did it fall in the end. I was at like a 9 or a 10 for the first half, and then it just kind of
Yeah,
shit
me
the
too.
bed.
I
And
was
then so,
mad.
Shit the bed,
yeah.
Inconsistent. It's so stylish and nice to look at, and technically, dazzling.
That's the best praise we got.
And
See?
if you love Hollywood and the pageantry, you're gonna like all that stuff. It's just the story. That final twist that he does at the end, it makes it, inconsistent, a little irresponsible, doesn't end the way you want, and you're like, and now you went that direction and you created some plot holes. It just feels like, man, it could have been so much better if he had
Yeah.
really looked at the script, looked at the final, the conclusion, and that's the case with a lot of horrors. A lot of horrors really failed to stick the landing, and I think Last Night in Soho, at least for us, it didn't stick the landing. Stuck everything else except for that particular landing. So we got to talk about that landing in the spoilers, but I think I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10 because it is, it's above average film. It's not a bad film. I've seen tons and tons of crappy horrors, but I actually like Antlers better. I respect Antlers for sticking with its message. This one is setting up its message the whole time. Then that third act just throws it out the window, and it's like, why? Just for some reveal that you think is clever and profound? No, it's not clever and profound. It's tropey, and then you created some plot holes in the process of doing that. So that's our opinion on this 70s 60s psychological horror thriller in Last Night in Soho. Do I think it's worth watching? Yeah, I think it's worth watching. I think Antlers is, I would start with Antlers and then maybe do Last Night in Soho, but I'm curious what you think of the ending as well. If you've seen it, leave a comment down below. Does the ending spoil it for you? All right, guys, let's get to the spoilers section. We will see you there. And if not, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys. Hey, welcome to the spoiler section. So, what is going on here?
So right from the get-go, they're like, "Oh, there's creepy men out in London," and
Yes.
then as soon as she gets into a taxi
This is a
cab,
story about sexual
babe.
abuse.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think I should have just said that in the review, because in the Antlers review, we said, hey, this is a story about substance abuse. So just like it's an allegory for that, here it's sexual abuse and entrapment. You know, some girls, they have dreams
They
and
have
they're
that
happy.
limelight, they wanna
They
be
have
independent.
fucking talent too, and this girl does have talent. Both the girls have talent, and they go to a big city and it chews them up, especially with sexual sided stuff where, you know, women become just an object for men.
like Hollywood,
Right.
As well.
So then you've got Matt Smith's character, who is the manager of a nightclub, and he basically gives her this false idea that he will let her be, you know, on
You'll be
this
a star.
big, you'll be a star stuff, right? And they set that up perfectly, and you believe that he's going to do that, and you buy into it. I'm like, okay, all right, this
Yeah.
is cool. Where's this going? And unfortunately, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming from the trailers. I didn't see it then. He is a pimp, and he starts using her as a prostitute, abusing her, and for selling her off to men. And it's like, come on, baby, you have to do favors for this guy. You will fucking do it.
wanna
This is
make it
what
big,
every
this is what
girl
you gotta
does.
do.
Starts to be abusive, starts to, you know, and I'm like, oh, God, you know, it makes you uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. And so I'm getting that this current character that we're following, what's her name? Eloise. Ellie. And when she stays in this apartment, it happens to be the same room that the original character,
Alex.
Sandy, was in.
Sandy.
And she's got multiple names. That's her prostitute name, Joe.
Yeah.
And so she's feeling what she's feeling. And I thought maybe, oh, they're going to do a murder mystery. And it kind of is a murder mystery, right? Where she's going to eventually, through her clairvoyance or whatever you call that, solve the mystery of her death. Because at one point they show Matt Smith, you know, over her with a knife and blood all over her. And eventually she didn't want to do it anymore. And she wanted to get out of it. And they throw in zombie Johns. That's the scary sort of monsters in here. These guys that are slowly taking their clothes off and their indistinct faces, and then, you know, they're doing that.
But for having the sixth sense, she's pretty shitty at it. Because she died. Sandy died. Yeah?
In the
What?
mean
In the vision.
well, she gets, yeah, she gets
okay,
that.
yeah, she gets that wrong, right?
Yeah.
But I
so
think
that's
I think
what
that
kind
was,
of vision. This
I
is
didn't
like-
understand what you were saying, Joe. I think that's very meta, right? The camera and the direction made it to where they never actually showed him killing
no,
her.
she
Yeah, you
did.
said-
She
yeah.
turned around and she's like, "Bah."
Oh shit! You're
That's
right.
why
Well,
I
you're
was
saying
like,
that the
okay.
fourth act completely undoes the third act
Yeah.
because in the third
it
act,
contradicts. I thought so,
If
but
they
I was
wanted
like, all
to
right,
do
fine,
that, they
I
could
get
have
it.
pulled away. Like
Yeah.
he stabbed and then pulled away.
They never do
way,
that.
No.
Why did they do that? That's insulting the audience's intelligence.
Wow,
You're
but-
actually taking that and you're like, so you can't predict it when it comes.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
when she goes to the police. She's like, "Hey, I saw this murder.
True.
This is what happened."
You're right. I forgot.
Not a tussle, a
So
straight
that's
up
even
murder.
more that I done that,
Well-
I
that
was like,
makes
wait,
me
that's
like it
not
even
what
less.
happened in your dream. But if you're gonna go to the cops, and it's like, inconsistent.
Yeah,
What?
I
Okay,
mean,
so at that, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, and this whole part we talk about the zombie Johns that were, you know, abusing her this entire time, and the zombie Johns at this point in the movie, and it's a long section of the movie, start attacking in the real world at all times Ellie, and they are attacking her.
Well, they're just scaring her. They're coming
They're
after
trying
her.
to
Yeah,
get
and they're grabbing
her.
onto her. I mean, and this is not and eventually we progress.
Every night she goes and has dreams, and this is when so she starts to get scared. And there's a subplot of her and this, male character who comes in and basically is very nice to her. And we're
Jack.
supposed to be, is his name Jack?
Yeah, I think so.
don't know what his name was. Thank you. Jack, Jack is Matt. I'm talking about the student.
Oh,
who's showing
student.
concern.
Okay,
What's his name?
yeah.
John, I don't know.
John, well, that's
Continue,
the
I'll look
John
it up.
zombies. Okay, anyways, so you have this subplot where he's being nice to her, and you're like, okay,
is John.
it is John. Okay, good. And and so it goes back and forth, and she doesn't want to go back to sleep. Kind of a Nightmare Before Elm Street situation, and he offers her to go out. And he's a nice guy, and they have some chemistry, and they're getting together. But then at one point, they're at party, they're getting drunk, and they want to go back and have sex, and so they go to the room, but then she starts having visions because every time at night in this room she starts to have visions. But oh no, it mixes with, this guy, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing anything. I'm trying to get off her. She sees, Sandy being killed by Jack, and that triggers this old lady, and the old lady is in charge of this apartment complex. She's like, no man overnight. So she tries to bust in. What's going on in there? And she sees this kid, runs off.
OB2 is my place.
Yeah.
We set rules. we set rules.
Okay, and
But he also stepped on
did he hurt
glass.
you? Exactly.
Yeah, he broke the
So
thing.
a lot of things are left. Like what the fuck that you're never spoken of again, and I'll get to 3 major ones that break the
This
plot.
is the point of the movie where I just stopped becoming interested because it starts breaking its own rules. It was, she goes to sleep, then she starts saying things. And in the third act of this movie, it's during the day, it's at random fucking times, and it just does not stop. It's at a party that she goes to, then it's at the club, and then it's at the bar, and then it's here, and then it's there, and it refuses to progress. It's scene after scene after
very
scene
consistent.
of her getting attacked all over fucking London, and it's like misery porn because every scene gets worse and worse to the point where her landlord thinks she's being raped in her room.
Something happens at the very least. In the review, you made it seem like nothing's happening.
Not a
you
single
just
thing.
wanted it to get to the payoff.
Nothing had
instead of the
progressed.
zombies continuing to attack.
Yeah,
her,
but
right?
so like zombies attack her, and then zombies attack her, and then zombies attack her, and then she's
I
running
think
her school.
What it was is you're right that when she goes to her room, but I think she was roofied or given something because she's got this rival in the fashion class that gives her 2 drinks, and I thought that maybe those drinks were spiked
But we
or
never
something.
know.
Exactly, that plot point is left, up in the air. But maybe that triggered her in some way where she started seeing the visions even outside of the room. That's what I was
she first
seeing.
ruins her school, right? Because she did it like pre-roofie. She her mannequin, the model is wearing her dress, and it turns into throat/Sandy, and then so she ruins her school life, she ruins her work life, she ruins her sex life. She's just like ruining her whole life for this whole section of the movie, and that's the problem. Where it's like you need to get to the fucking point. We get it. You've ruined her life. Move on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they do eventually move on, and when they finally get there, it's a reveal of. Okay, so she's a bartender as well. There's another subplot. In order to earn money for the new room, she gets a job as a bartender, and there's this creepy old guy that's like harassing her. He seems like he's some suave motherfucker back in the day, and he's just talking to her in creepy ass ways. Well, she starts to get in this idea in her head that it's like, oh, this guy, his age, okay, that might be appropriate. He might actually be Jack. This is fucking Jack, and Jack killed Sandy. And so she tries to, get this guy back for that. And she shows up to work one day, manic, late for work, and she's like, you've got a customer. And she's like, I'm going to get him because I know, he's down there. And she starts recording him, and it's kind of trying to get him to admit that, he killed Sandy because she thinks he's Jack. Turns out, and then he's not Jack, and he's like, oh, I know all these women, and, they're all the same. And then I tried to get her out of it, but she wanted to be there. You don't know who Sandy is. He knows Sandy. And so she's like, aha, you're Jack. And then, she's like yelling at him and screaming at him as he's leaving the bar. He's like, I don't need any more of these questions. And she literally murders a person in the fucking film.
I was so
That's
mad
what
at
I'm
that.
saying.
I was so
Nobody
mad at
ever
that.
brings it up again. She fucking kills this old guy. It turns out this old guy was not Jack. he was this police officer that you saw in one of the scenes where it's just guy after
And
guy after
I
guy.
get the whole thing, but she could have been like, "Oh, what's your name? What did you used
No,
to do?"
no. So
right.
you're
Bam,
right.
done.
You're right.
Yeah.
You do
Done.
not.
Yeah.
You are not a bartender. This guy drinks there every fucking night. Everyone knows who this motherfucker is.
Yes.
This entire movie is predicated on the main character never asking who anyone's
Anyone
name
is.
is.
She's
She
an
doesn't know.
idiot.
She doesn't know her landlord because her landlord's name
Never
is the
asks.
secret to the whole fucking movie.
Right. I guess the most you could say for that is she's just an ignorant. She's from the country and she never asked.
Everyone in a
She was
small
gonna
town
put
doesn't know her.
She was
know
going
their
to
name.
put somebody in jail for
Yeah.
a long ass time.
She's not
for
polite
murder,
enough to ask people.
and
their
she
names.
killed someone.
Yes. So this is why I'm like, what the fuck? So already you're it's just breaking shit. And then so she does that. She realizes, oh shit, that's not the person. And then she's like, I gotta get out of
dead.
here. I gotta fucking leave. And just so happens to be that John, her now boyfriend, is running and trying to get her. And she's like, no, I have somebody that will take me home because she's on the phone with her grandma. And she says, John, can you take me home? He's like, I got a car. I'll take you home right away. Just get your. She's like, I just need to get my stuff and we'll leave. It's like, number one, all this shit's happening. Just fucking leave. But no, she goes back to the fucking room. You know something's gonna happen when she gets into the room.
If I'm not
How-
back in 15 minutes.
That's
I'll
the
be
thing.
"Oh,
I'm like,
God."
another stupid fucking trope. It's like, I'll go with you. Let me help you. And she's like, no, the old lady will get mad at you. I got to do this alone. I'll be back in 15 minutes. If I'm not back, come and get me. I'm like, all right, here's something's about to happen. She goes in the house. And then you realize, and then kind of last minute, you see it coming. I don't know if any of you knew it. Like, I saw it coming. Did you see it
Oh
coming?
yeah! As soon as she's like, "Hey, come in for some tea," I was like, "Ah, son of a
Aha,
bitch.
that's
Don't drink
bitch
the tea
right there. So you
Never
thinking
drink
this
the
old
tea."
man was Jack the whole time. It turns out the old woman, who's a cranky old lady, but kind of nice at least to her, was actually Sandy. And it turns out that she's a crazed, murderous fucking person. This victim of entrapment, sexual trafficking, abuse, and they turn into a
traumatized.
fucking monster. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden this victim is now the monster. And I thought that was irresponsible. I thought it was stupid. It's like you squandered what you could have done with the message. So then she's actually the one, and she was actually killing all the Johns this whole time. So, all these zombies that have been haunting her the whole time,
Like,
they're not
help.
actually evil guys. All
Help
these
me.
people that were like forcing her to do something and being creepy the whole film. Well, it turns out they're the real victims. Men who pay women for
Perverts.
sex are the real victims. And she is the monster, and she killed all these Johns. And in addition, she's going to kill the little girl. She's like, yeah, I'm Sandy, and don't worry, you won't ever tell anybody. And she realizes, oh, shit, because she's like, drink your tea. And she drinks the tea. It's, oh, fuck, she's poisoned. Guess what? That never fucking gets brought up again. She's literally poisoned. She's like,
Yeah, she couldn't
and
move.
Then
She
she's
was
like,
like,
I'm not gonna stab you. You're gonna die peacefully. Here's a little pillow for you, right? But then out of nowhere, she gets up, and then the movie never
cartwheels,
addresses
doing
again
cartwheels and
the
shit.
fact that she's doing cartwheels, doing flips, no, kick flips, and kung fu.
Yeah.
She was poisoned, and it never brings it up again.
Yeah, well, she
Okay.
also attempted murder. They never bring up the attempted murder either.
Go ahead.
She's
Yeah.
in the library, and
Yeah.
she grabs scissors
Yes.
and is going to stab
That's-
her
yep.
ex-roommate in the face. And her roommate's yelling for security and the police, like, this bitch is trying to murder
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And she gets stopped
Well,
last
I
second.
wanted that bully to get their comeuppance. At least the bully and Antlers got fucking obliterated. In this film, the bully never gets her comeuppance. She gets her
She
scissors in
kind
her
of did,
face.
but I hated
No.
the ending. On
Yeah,
it.
I hated
attempted
that.
murder, and then we don't see her again until they're, like, cool with each other at the very last
No,
minute.
she's like, no, she's still a bitch at the end. I'm like, fuck this fucking shit. I wish this whole movie and the fucking bitch didn't even get her up
Yeah.
at Cummins. And then you're right. So she almost attempts murder there. And then her boyfriend comes in. Okay, she's being poisoned, and he's realizing, oh, she hasn't been here in 15 minutes. He goes, and then this old lady's like, all right, now I got to kill this motherfucker. And she opens the door for her boyfriend, stabs him. The motherfucker is stabbed with a huge fucking knife. He falls down, and you're like, oh, he's dead. No, he's fine. And then we
She
do
missed all the organs.
she
Yeah, she
guess
went-
missed all the others. Like no, and then she's this old lady is creeping real slow up the stairs.
you gotta get that
while
cool
our hero,
effect.
and then Edgar Wright does this stupid effect where she turns back into the young version and she's like starts singing. I'm like, oh my god, what are we doing? What the fuck? And then she's going up the steps and narrowly missing her every time she slashes, and eventually she kicks her. I'm like, you should have done that a long time ago, and the old lady falls down. And then they do this thing where she's chasing after her. The house is starting to get on fire. The boyfriend's like, fire, and then she kind of, I guess, realizes that she's become a monster, and she's no longer. She does an about face, Sandy, and says, get out of here, save your boyfriend. But you just fucking stabbed him.
Well, before that,
you just killed her.
Every one of the dead Johns is like holding down and like trying to rip apart this girl, and the entire last half of this movie, these are bad guys. These are bad, evil ghost things, and they're actually like, actually, ma'am, could you kill this woman who killed us?
Here's the phone.
Kill her.
And so they're like
trying to help her.
They're like breaking her arms and shoulders, and then he picks up the phone. He's like, hey, can you call the cops for me, please? And then all of a sudden, at the very end of the movie, Sandy can see ghosts too because Matt Smith bitch slaps her.
Yeah.
Sandy,
a ghost bitch slaps her.
A ghost bitch slaps Sandy, and then Sandy's just like, oh, you are correct. I am the bad person. I'm going to sit down in this room and die.
That is irresponsible. That's fucked up, in my opinion. What is he trying to say here with this message? No, he wanted both his slasher film, his not French, it's like Italian. You know what I mean? Where they play with the lights.
Yeah.
I forget which style that mimics, but he's trying to mimic that irresponsibly when he sets up this perfect, setup for it, and it just doesn't work. This twist was too much. And then then she decides to sit down while the place is fucking burning, and our hero escapes, I guess with her boyfriend, and then I guess she dies in a fire.
Well, she tried to kill herself, but Ellie stopped her. He's like, no, don't do it. Don't kill yourself. He's like, I'm going to sit down in the bed and kill myself. Okay, you can do that.
This way is quick, dying slowly in the fire.
Our main character is a piece of shit. We've just revealed
She
this
was
fucking
poisoned.
thing over
That's
and
the thing
over
that makes me
and
so
over.
mad. That's the thing that pisses me off so
I'm
bad.
gonna
because
end my life
at the
quickly.
very end, she has this fashion show. Everyone's fucking clapping. I was
Yes.
like, bitch, you just killed a man. You attempted
Yeah.
murder.
Not only
and
that-
you went crazy.
Yes.
And started, you try to convince them, the
Yep.
cops,
But
they're
the
like,
biggest
hey,
offense,
this is all
Joe?
this stuff. And you burned down the house. Well,
Yep.
it wasn't her, but she brought up old memory, old wounds to the old lady,
Yeah.
which she pressed down.
Right.
And probably had. She wouldn't
And
have
then
done
finally-
anything if the cops wouldn't have showed up. But
And then finally, the biggest offense is her fashion show. Her dress is fucking shit. Okay, that little pink
Fashion
dress.
crimes.
She made a crime against fashion at the end. For the whole time,
She should've been
she's doing a
arrested.
legit, like pink.
you
60s
see
style
the trailer.
throwback, and then they put sci-fi shit on the top of it,
foil
and
papers.
everybody's like, "Whoa, that's the coolest fucking dress I've ever seen." It's like, no, I found it annoying. I found her
That's what
annoying.
made me
I
mad.
found the twist
Those
annoying.
two things.
Even though the film was fucking well shot and it had the talent, but the ending and the twist was annoying.
The ending's always the hardest part, and they just,
And they didn't.
They fucked it up.
Stick that landing. I don't know if he had noble intentions or whatnot, where I could have said something about sexual abuse at that time, because women coming up in that age, had to deal with a lot of this kind of stuff. And I thought that that's what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she's in tune with her mother, she's got this tragic backstory where her mother took her own life going to London. And then you could turn that into an inspiring story. Instead, it gets muddled.
Yeah.
it's just like, it's a slasher. Now.
I don't need messaging here where I didn't need any of that stuff. Like, even you take away all of the messaging thing.
I didn't need it too, but that's what they were doing. And then he does it the whole fucking time. Oh yeah, that's what he was fucking doing.
He was
the
setting
whole
up, but the
fucking time.
ending, I
And then-
don't get that he's playing like, this is the bad guy. I don't get the
Right, that's what I don't understand.
Yeah, it's just that it was not
face.
well written. Period. Even without the thing, it's like, okay, well, so now she can see ghosts, and now the ghost can interact with the real world. Like
It doesn't follow its own rules.
You set up these like when you build a universe, you build something, and you set up your ground rules, and you're like, oh, by the way, in the end, I'm gonna fucking ignore all that shit. Nothing's gonna make any sense. Did you like it? No, you fucked it up at the end.
It's a forced, completely wrong ending, and then they try to throw the happy ending in there, where everybody's clapping for her.
yeah,
She's
which-
super happy. It didn't work. Her grandma is happy.
Like, why
and
would that girl even be clapping? I was like, you try to kill me.
There's
No.
You legit tried to
Like,
kill me.
I need
If that dude
fucking
had been there, I would be
protection.
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand it either. That's what I'm saying. He was like, what if he did set up a message, which it kind of was? What was the message of the ending?
There also
That
was
women
no
will get
mention.
away with crime.
Yeah. There was no mention of any of the bodies, right? At the end, where they're like, there could have been something at the end where like,
That's what I was waiting
there's
for.
like, oh, they discovered 600 bodies in the walls and the floors of this weird house.
Oh shit, that's right.
And
I
then
forgot.
they never mentioned any of that stuff.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so Sandy, all of those fucking
That's what I
Johns that
thought.
she
I was
killed
like, the
are
fire.
in the walls.
Okay, the fire's gonna uncover all these bodies when she's running out or something. It's like do something with that, but no, they just.
She didn't even wrap them up.
Yeah.
They're just rotting corpses.
Oh, that house would have been
Oh, yeah.
Stinky. Oh, and they
Stinky.
kind of mentioned,
Makes
it
no
stinks in
smell.
the summertime. It's like, it stink every day.
Oh, right. The smell comes up. You just have to plug
That's
oh,
real.
Really?
Yeah,
Seriously?
but I mean, come on.
It would have been way worse than that. Anyways, this has run long, so that third act, man, it ruins it.
It's a
And an
doozy.
otherwise, technically sound film and very visually impressive. I just wish that they could get these endings right for the horror film. So let us know what you thought of the ending if you've seen it, and or let me know what horror film actually executes. You know what? I'll give you one right here. And actually, it was a suggestion by God Eye in our
you saw it?
community. I
The
finally saw it
Asylum?
because we had a promo on, let's see.
It's something asylum.
Yeah. Let's see.
on Shudder.
Yeah, a while ago, it was called Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum 2018. You want a scary one? It takes about 30, 40 minutes to really establish its characters, and then the spooks and scares just come one right after the other. It's a found footage film. Normally, I don't like the found footage films. I think they're not as effective, but this one was good. It was in a fucking asylum, Joe, and I know
like
you
Blair
don't.
Witch.
You never wanted to go ghost
fuck
hunting
no.
with me and
Fuck
Jacob
no.
and stuff.
No.
But then
dumb.
you need to watch this film. Anyway, so I'll just give you a suggestion here because I was disappointed with the third act of Antlers and the third act of Last Night in Soho. So anyways, that's our opinion. What did you guys think? Leave it in the comments. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.